I'm going to open a school. I'm going to teach some classes. People are going to knock on the door. I'm going to have to enroll them. I got a chance now to teach more people. And then all of a sudden you started getting in, you find out, okay, it's a lot more than that. So I started just writing this up on all the things that you have to do. And when I first did this, I was just using sticky notes. So I was doing sticky notes on a board. Okay, I have to do this and I have to do that. And all of a sudden my whiteboard was just all full of sticky notes. I go, man, no wonder so many people get overwhelmed. You know, a guy like Ashton's taking over the school. He was a head instructor. Can't be that difficult running a martial arts school. Until you start realizing that if I'm going to keep the school going, I've got to do some advertising. And probably the biggest thing is I've got to pay some bills. I mean, I'm going to have bills coming up at the end of the month. If I don't pay those, I'm not going to be in here for too long. And then all of a sudden, taxes come in. You have to not only be aware of your taxes, but the taxes of your employees. I got to make sure that if someone does call me about some information, I've got this phone call down pat. So I don't want to have people call me, respond to my advertising, and then I screw up on the phone call and don't make an appointment. And then someone's always saying we should do outgoing phone calls and outgoing emails, so I have to master that. And a lot of that is probably just getting the guts to pick up the phone and call someone you really don't know and start talking about your martial arts school. And then if I really want to market correctly, I have to do events, because events are really important for retention, referrals, and revenue. So I've got to really master the whole idea of events. And then we have inventory. Inventory is money we made, and it's just sitting on our back shelf, and it looks like sparring gear. So it's not money I can spend, but it's an inventory. So if I want to run a lean martial arts school, I have to learn how to do pro shop. I have to do sales without keeping a lot of inventory. Mike Andreessen and I did a last Wednesday's meeting on that. How can we sell and pre-sell items for summer without keeping inventory? Then I've got to make sure the school looks right and it's clean besides doing all my other stuff. I have to make sure I do my flyers, my rack cards, make sure I have a nice sign in the school. And maybe if I'm not in a great location, I have to have A-frame signs. So, signage is really important, having a good look at that. A good look to that. I have to be able to do some type of school talks. If I'm going to build this lighthouse affecting my school and people are going to be attracted to me, well, I've got to get out there in the community. I've got to share my vision. I've got to educate the kids. So I've got to get out there and do school talks. Ashton was just saying he has one instructor, Philip, that comes in once in a while. So he's probably going to think pretty soon about, I've got to get more instructors. So I have to start with instructor training. And then I have to keep my stats, because if someone's going to come in and check up on me, I want to make sure I have my stats. I have to get really good at Rainmaker. If I can really take advantage of integrating my marketing, I'll work on retention. I've got to get good at my software. I got to make sure every day when I'm doing business, I'm entering my contracts. So I have to either do this or have someone else do that. And then I know if people miss, I've got to give them a missing action call or some type of procedure. At the same time, for people who come to my class, I want to make sure I contact them, make them feel good about their training through good job notes. I want to do seminars, not only for educating my own students, but to bring in guests coming in. I've got to train all these people. I know parents always have questions, so I've got to really get good at handling parents' concerns. And if there's parents are sharing concerns with the rest of my staff, I got to make sure they can handle that. Mr. Baxley was just saying he got quite a few leads on his second location, so he's got to jump into that for this week and work on his sales. And 3 months from now, all those sales are going to want to upgrade, so he's got to make sure he's ready to upgrade these people. In fact, when he's doing his sales this week, he's going to pre-frame that. We're doing add-on programs. I know Mr. Baxley, people can choose their path in his school. They can choose a jiu-jitsu path. They can choose an MMA path. Later on, if they want to add on a program, they have the opportunity to do that. I want to make sure I have some type of business-to-business relationship. We talk about this all the time. If I have other business owners in town that are helping me with their rack cards, I got to be able to step up and help them with their businesses also. Promotional booths are just great. You know, how am I going to get out there and do promotional booths? I have to teach on Saturdays, so I've got to get that on. And when I roll all these students, you know, for me to keep them, I have to have that glue, that what's going to keep them active the first 100 days. Oh, PG1, PG2, and PG3. And then I have to make sure my physical progress check to get them into leadership is done. If I want to get paid for my marketing, I've got to promote some birthday parties. Not only promote the birthday parties, I got to make sure I have a system on doing the birthday parties. We talked about students that are on track. If students are on track in their strike testing, their belt testing, they feel really good about themselves and their training, they're going to attend more classes, they're going to have better attendance. So we got to make sure that I have extra help classes and private classes to keep everyone on track. I want to make sure people know about me. I've got a website. I got to drive people to my website, so I've got to make sure I'm doing my blogging. I'm doing my Facebook. When people respond to my blogging or Facebook, I've got to do follow-up calls. I have to either do my confirmations by email or at least set them up in Rainmaker. So if someone's making an appointment, they're getting confirmed by emails, they're getting confirmed by text. Same time, I want to make sure I build a relationship, so I have to do confirmation calls. I just worked with this girl, Melanie Strauss, today, working on her equipment packages. We have to make sure we have camp days. I mean, camp days, winter camps, summer camps, sleepovers, parents sign out. All those events really help with our student value. So as we increase the student value, those are really, really important. I want to make sure that I'm not the only one marketing my school. You know, Ashton just says he has 80 students. How does he get his 80 students to give out his guest passes? So every week he's got 80 people recommending his school. They're doing some type of referral program. I want to make sure my students feel that they're really special, so I have to have a method to do my Student of the Month program. Make sure they get a nice newsletter. I have the Black Belt Excellent program. Not only am I handing out the Black Belt Excellent sheets, I got to make sure they get their rewards, they get their wristbands, making sure that I'm watching the mat chats, and me and my team are really good at presenting those to my students. I got to pay my rent. I got to make sure I have savings, because if something comes up and all of a sudden my air conditioner goes out in the middle of summer, I've got to pay for that, so I've got to do some savings. I got to make sure that a percentage of my students are paying in full in case I want to do any type of investment. I mean, Sal's listening to this. He's going to be opening another 6,000 square foot addition to his school. He's got to do all that build out, so he's got to get some type of paid in full so he can afford to do that without borrowing the money. I want to make sure I'm managing a contingency liability fund. Paid in fulls is great, but if someone gets injured and they have to leave and I have to do some refunds, I got to make sure that I have a contingency liability fund in case I have to give money back. I got to make sure I have a good payroll. I'm paying my quarterly taxes. I want to make sure my business is structured either into an LLC, a sub-S, or a partnership, and I got to make sure I'm paying my liability insurance. That's just stuff I could think off the top of my head. So when we think about running a school, I can't imagine someone getting to school and just thinking, man, I really got nothing to do today. I mean, there is so much to do. Now, people get really good at this. Mick Perry gets really, really good at this. I was talking to him last week. Let me just talk about you just for a second, Mick. We're talking about the importance of doing outgoing phone calls. So we're talking about that. He goes, I know it's really important. I want to do really good. My wife and I are going to spend 2 hours a day on outgoing phone calls. Man, just a big red light went off. I said, man, I got to talk him out of this. I want him to do that, but I don't want him to do it himself. So I talked to him about using or utilizing Rainmaker better. What we don't want to do is have all these things to do and then just get bogged down into, okay, now I'm going to do 2 hours of phone calls. Martial arts school owners seem to have the belief that no one can do it as well as they can, so they like to do everything themselves. They know the importance of delegating, but a lot of guys just hate delegating. First that, well, I got in this to run martial arts school. I really don't want to delegate, or I just don't trust a person I'm delegating to. So when I start thinking of running a strong school, you got to have leadership. You have to have someone who's in charge of program directing. I mean, you have to have sales. Well, if you go into a health club, they don't just have one person selling. You'll see all kinds of desks, and there's a lot of people selling. I mean, that's really important because they know the importance of getting new people in. So we have to have a sales crew. We have to have strong instructors. Some instructors are great at teaching. They don't want to be part of sales, but having people on the floor and staying on the floor is so important. I've got to have a real strong instructor team. At the same time, I have to have someone who's managing my front end. If I'm not going to do this myself, who do I trust to set up my Rainmaker? Who do I trust and that I can train to do outgoing phone calls? So let's kind of divide everything up into those three things. So when we first start doing it, certain things, probably I don't have to do it all. I can outsource. So it's like paying bills. I can get a bookkeeper. The bookkeeper can pay my taxes. The bookkeeper can pay my bills. As much as I like to clean my mirrors, vacuum my floor, and clean my bathroom, I probably can hire someone to do that. I mean, it's kind of wasting my time if I'm going to spend an hour cleaning my school, or if I have my team come in and I've got my instructors who could be training and really sharpening their sword. They shouldn't be really cleaning my school. I should be outsourcing that. I shouldn't be writing my own software. None of you guys have to do that only because you have Rainmaker. You're going to outsource that to Rainmaker. The newsletter, I can outsource the newsletter. I could do some type of template. I can hire someone from Fiverr to come up with a nice monthly newsletter. I can make sure I get an accountant to do my payroll, my quarterly taxes. My attorney's going to handle my sub-S corporation. I'm going to outsource my liability insurance. So there's a lot of things right off the bat that I'm just going to clean my plate with. Next thing is instructor. Okay, what am I going to have my instructor take off my plate? Well, I just did a real quick thing. Events, school talks, junior instructor training, miss-in action calls, good job notes, seminars, birthday parties, extra help, private classes, camps, sleepovers, parents night out, guest passes, referral programs through the month, mat chats. That's my instructor team. Whoever is my head instructor, I'm going to give them this responsibility. Now, they're going to kind of delegate some of that to junior instructors, but that's their responsibility. So I'm going to make sure they totally understand those responsibilities. They totally understand what I expect them to do. They're going to give me goals that they're going to set, and then I'm going to check in, but that's their department. So that's going to take quite a bit off. That's the structures. You notice that there's not a lot of marketing in that except the birthday parties. Next thing, what's my program director going to do? Well, my program director's going to make their living by selling programs. So they're going to be in charge of advertising. They're going to make sure that they know how to do the incoming phone calls, outgoing phone calls. They're going to make sure the rest of the team is trained in that. So if I do phone call training or just become like a secret shopper and call the school, whoever happens to answer the phone, they're going to do the phone call procedure correctly. My program director's doing a lot of sales of product. In other words, when someone signs up or someone upgrades, a lot of the product comes in equipment packages. So my program director is going to be in charge of inventory. They're going to make sure, again, part of marketing is flyers, signs. They're going to keep stats because when I check into my program director, if I'm going to find out if they're doing a good job, I go, hey, you had 100 phone calls. How many appointments did we make? They go 80. Okay, they're going to have to keep the stats. So when I check in, they already know what I'm looking for. They're going to do the contract entry. Program director is going to make sure that they understand how to handle parents' concerns. So if a mom's saying, hey, it's too crowded, the mom's not going to come to me. They're going to talk to the program director about that. They're going to be in charge of sales, upgrades, add-on programs, business to business, my rack cards, my promotional booths, my PG 1, 2, and 3, progress checks. Again, part of advertising is Facebook, follow-up phone calls. So that's all going to be for my program director. So far, I've outsourced. I've delegated a lot to instructors. I've delegated a lot to my program director department. So This what leaves me. After all that's done, there's only two things left: staff training and money management. That's where my efforts go. So I know that if I'm going to have a good instructor team, I'm going to really work with the head of that department. They're going to know how to schedule classes. They're going to know how to train. They're going to know how to become good finders. I'm putting my effort into them. So it's maybe 2.5 hours a week that I'm working with my instructor, so that can work down and my instructor can take responsibility. I'm going to be doing the money management. I've got to make sure that I pay my bills and we're generating so much money in the school that I can do that savings. I can pay my instructors and I'm not bouncing any money. I'm going to be concentrating on money management. I know what we have to be bringing into school. So when I'm working with the program director department, I'm going to say, okay, this should be our gross. We should be signing this many students up. We need 10% of our active students to sign up as new students. We need 50% of those people to pay in full. So all the statistics that I talk to you guys on a regular basis, you should be talking with your program director. So we have our instructor team. We have our program directors team. I kind of went over program directors. A lot of stuff in here also has to do with our front-end office manager. So your job, how does this get done? First, I have teams. I have my head instructor. My head instructor has my junior instructor under him, maybe 2 junior instructors. Maybe my instructor team is brand new, so I have an instructor leading that, and then he's doing my leadership team. He's doing my SWAT team. Maybe that's his team. So I develop the team. I decide who's going to be the leader. I make sure I arm that leader with the skills. This is the skills it's going to take for you to train our instructor team. This is our goals. Our goals is to make sure that 85% of our active students are training every single week. Our goal is to make sure that if anyone isn't in class by Wednesday, they're getting a phone call. Our goal is to make sure everyone who misses a solid week of classes gets a missing in action call on Monday. Those are our goals. Our goals are to make sure that with the instructor team, we have events. 20% of the students should be involved in events. If we're not getting 20%, there's something wrong. So this is my idea for events. So I have the leader. I arm him with the skills. I give him his goals. And then I have to make sure I communicate. I went to church yesterday, and the pastor got off a little and started talking about, hey, did you ever ask your kid to clean his room? What happens? He goes, probably nothing. Clean your room. What does that mean? So you have to communicate. You have to have a plan. So when you're talking to your child or your kid about cleaning his room, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to pick up all your toys off the floor and put them away. I want you to take all your clothes and I want you to put them in a basket and bring it down to the laundry room. I got to make sure you do this. So you got to make sure that they have a plan. I've got to communicate my plan. I think this is the missing key with a lot of people when they start to delegate and why they get frustrated. You have a picture of what your classes should look like in your mind, but you don't communicate, you don't plan that out with your instructors enough. Then you go to check up on it and watch it go, what's going on? What's going on is you didn't communicate the picture in your head with your team. So you have to communicate, you have to give them a plan. They have a certain amount of tasks. Okay, I'm working with Ashton. Okay, Ashton, I got to make sure that 85% of the people are in class every single week. He goes, okay, got it, Mrs. Silva, I'm going to do that. What are you going to do for a task, Ashton? Well, if I want to get 85%, I'm going to make sure my classes are exciting. So I'm going to work with the team on the warm-up. What else are you going to do? I'm going to do my mixed in action calls. Cool, Ashton. What else are you going to do? Well, I'm going to send out 5 good job notes a day. Cool. Okay, now I've got to check in. So everything I expect out of Ashton now, I want to inspect. So now I check in. It's the end of the week. Ashton, how do we look? Good. All these people came to class. These 5 people didn't. And what did you do with those 5 people? They already got a missing in action call. I talked to everyone. Everyone's coming back, made an appointment for the first 2 days next week. Great. So develop your teams. You're the big leader. but you have to have a leadership person in charge of each team. Hone their skills. Make sure they set goals. Communicate exactly what you're looking for. Either they're going to create a plan or you're going to create a plan with them. Out of that plan comes a list of tasks. That's what you expect. And then you got to make sure the last thing that you inspect. And then it's constant training. So it may seem like, hey, I delegated everything. There's nothing for me to do. There's a huge thing for you to do. Because now you have to take all your skills and transform it into someone else. Let them go, watch them grow, and it's give you more free time. This is why Steve Baxley, a lot of times when I'm talking to him, his team's at the school, and he's planning in his office. He's not doing the day-to-day things on an everyday basis, but he is planning with his team, and he is training his team. Do we have any questions on this? Maybe something doesn't fit your comfort zone, or you have some limiting belief that's holding you back?
Not so much limiting beliefs, but I know when I talk to my team about the right picture and all that stuff, even with instructor training, I think they're so used to, we have to realize that they're used to doing things another way, whether it's teaching from another instructor, and that's how they are used to teaching. So you got to be patient with them to keep reinforcing those behaviors and those habits. For example, on a Friday, we did like a 3-hour instructor training, and I told them, this is how I want you guys to teach. Don't teach anything else but this stuff. And then on Monday, the following Monday, guess what they're teaching? All the stuff that they know, because they're uncomfortable with what I just taught them. So of course, just like any human being, if you're uncomfortable, you're going to do things that are comfortable. So just know that it's a process, and you know, they're doing their very best, but you just got to keep hammering it. You just got to keep ironing. It's like you're the iron, you know, you got the guy, you're the one with the iron fist, and you keep straightening it out.
But when you explained that, Ms. Coventry, kind of went right through the whole thing. You checked in on Monday, you didn't get the total results, so it's a matter of retraining. It just keep retraining. Right. But I think retraining or keep training is one of the most important things, because I've talked to so many instructors that say, I did protocol procedure, and we did it the first 2 weeks of last month, and they just don't have it. Well, it's just like when you're doing your martial arts skills. I've taught people a lot of forms, and they sort of had it the first month, and they didn't have it after that because of a lack of practice, whatever. So start thinking of your skills on the floor as your martial arts skills, and as martial arts instructor, we teach, we train, we review.
And I do like keeping it down to one or two things that we do. Like you're saying, us as business owners or managers, you're in charge of the money and the training. And so that's what I do. I'm in charge of sales and marketing. I'm in charge of bringing in the money, you know, and no one's going to care about your business more than you. And so that's my number one responsibility. And two, training them. So I only have two things, so it's not overwhelming.
Yes, sir.
When you were telling all about all the things that we did, I remember doing all of those, and I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think what I do now, like for example, last week we talked about the 5 good job cards, and that wasn't happening. And what I did that I think is smart for the group is to say, hey team, how come this hasn't been done? And what do you recommend on fixing it? And so they give me some ideas. And now we've had a lot of people just doing those 5 or 3 good job cards. And so it's not always me trying to fix it, because if it's my idea, they don't think it's their own. So give them the opportunity to have their own solutions to a problem.
That's great, teaching them problem solving, which you want them to do anyway. Excellent, guys.
Hey, Nick here. One of the things that I've done to help the staff is I actually make them a checklist so they can do something and check it off, and do something and check it off. And mandatory reading for all my employees is the 1 Minute Manager. There's a new version of the 1 Minute Manager. It's about as thick as, I don't know, $1,000 in your pocket, I guess. And the written checklist seems to, because I can identify exactly where it went wrong. Certain tasks have to be done in the right order. They have to be layered. And a lot of times I find my employees think they're doing stuff, but they didn't do it in the right order, so they don't get the result. And the checklist signed and turned in helps me identify what they're doing well and where they need work.
I had a checklist for my program director, and I had a checklist for my front-end office person. And after a checklist was done, I had another list of stuff to do if you're done.
Mm-hmm. Organization is smart.
Ashton, yeah, we can do anything. Just got to contact me. Send me an email or at greg@gregsilva.com, or just Facebook me a chat, and we'll get a time. Okay, everyone. Thank you. Enjoy your week. If you have any questions, just send them to me, greg@gregsilva.com, and I'll be glad to talk to you. Thank you.